Hi guys, it's me again Antis. I hope everything is doing well at your end. We are now on the third video on the chatbot template using LangGraph, and I'm very excited to share with you the additional functionalities I have added to the chatbot template. Before we start with the coding sessions, let's do a quick flashback on the topics that we have covered on the first two videos earlier. The first one is about the data ingestions, where we have downloaded the data and then we convert the data into smaller chunks, and then we have converted the chunks into vector embedded before we store it into vector database. The second functionality that we have discussed as well is the state, where we have added the chat memory or chat history into the chatbot. And then the third functionalities that we have added is that we are allowing the chatbot to read the data from the vector database and then use the data to respond to the users based on the Gen AI response, where we have called the LLM functions to respond to the users. So we know that when we are generating the AI response, we are calling the LLM models to read the data and to provide the response to the users accordingly. However, we know that LLM models are not free from error. We know the accuracy is very high, but still it's not like 0% error. In a very few cases, they may hallucinate or they may give less accurate response. So how do we tackle those problems of hallucinations and possibility of giving less accurate response to the users? So how to solve the problem of hallucinations or possibility of giving less accurate response to the users? So one solution that we can do is we need to split the responsibility of the agents. We need to split the AI response into more than one LLM models. Let's call the first LLM models as agent 1, and the responsibility of this agent number 1 is to read the data from the vector database and to provide the first answer. But instead of passing the first answer into the user, this agent number 1 will pass the answer to the agent number 2. And then this agent number 2 will utilize again the LLM models and is going to review the answer from the agent number 1, make necessary adjustment, for example, to make sure that the answer is not too long but still insightful. Once this agent number 2 is done with the review, then this agent number 2 can pass the response to the users. Okay, I hope you are now clear with the ideas that I want to convey with you. Now let's begin with the coding session. So I have here with me my notebook. So let's start with the libraries. Nothing changes on here. So let's just run this cell. And then initializations of the agent state, no problem at all. And then set up the Qdrant vector database. And then here on the functionalities, then you can see that I have added two functions. One is summarize underscore prompt, and then second one is short underscore AI response. Let me focus on the summarize underscore prompt here. So you can see here I have set up an AI prompt, which is essentially the requirement that I have set up for the other agent, which is agent number 2, to review the answer from the first agent. So let me read out here quickly. So this agent number 2, essentially I want to set up this agent as a data scientist and an AI expert, and then I set up the responsibility for this agent is to respond to the user query on a mobile app. So I'm assuming that this chatbot is going to be used in a mobile app. Hence, your response should be short yet insightful. So you can see here the requirement that I have set up for this agent number 2 is to make sure that the answer is still insightful, because this agent number 2 is still a data scientist or AI expert, but it has to be short because the user are most likely using mobile app to access the chatbot app. And the data that I have fed in for agent number 2 is the answer from the first agent. So you can see here the prompt is that I have provided for this agent number 2 is that the other data scientist, which is the agent number 1, has provided a long answer as follows for this query from the user input. Then I have put here a statement. However, if you see the answer is too long for user using mobile app, and therefore this long answer might intimidate or confuse the users, please provide a shorter yet insightful answer. And then if you think it is useful to provide some details, please add an URL link that the user can read it themselves. And then let's pass this AI prompt into the state messages and then pass it on to the short AI response, where this agent number 2 will review the answer from the first agent, which is Gen AI response here, and then will be responsible to provide the response to the end users. So let me run this one, and then let's take a look at the flow here, what adjustment I have made on the flow. So I'm adding here agent number 1, so nothing changes from the previous one. I just add a mark here, agent number 1, And then I have added two nodes here. Essentially, the first one is summarize prompt, and the second one is short AI response. So the meaningful changes is here on the edge here, where when we have the response from the first agent, so the first agent is going to pass the response to summarize prompt, and then the summarize prompt will pass the prompt to short AI response, where short AI response essentially is the agent number 2 will read the instructions from the summarize prompt, which is I have set up for the agent number 2, and then the agent number 2, once review the answer from agent number 1, it will provide the response to the users. So let me run this graph, and then let's test and run the workflow here. Tell me about the T5 model. So you can see this is the same questions that I have asked this chatbot earlier. And let's see what we get on the response here in a few seconds. Okay, so we have the answer here from the chatbot. So let's go through together to the answer. So the first question that I have added here, tell me about the T5 models. Then you can see here the answer from agent number 1, T5 model. So we have the long answer as we know earlier in my first 2 videos. But here I have added an instruction here for the agent number 2 to provide a short yet insightful response. So you can see here from the long answer, which is like how many lines here, like more than 10 lines here, then the agent number 2 shortened the answer into 4 lines only, and then added the link as we have instructed in the prompt engineering earlier. So the agent number 2 will do the job as per our instructions. So you can instruct them as you want, as per your need, and then the agent number 2 will review the answer from the agent number 1 and provide the response to the user as we wanted or as accurate as possible. Okay guys, so that's the end of the third video sessions. I hope you find this video is useful for you and adding more knowledge, and I hope you can also use this template as one of your resources to develop your own chatbot template. So all the best, and I see you on the next sessions.